Autism and language deficiencies were once considered separate problems. This was the case until recent evidence suggested a definitive connection between the two. The difficulty with language was found to be a hallmark of autistic children. Today we'll talk about language development problems in children, an indicative characteristic of autism. Welcome to Autism Answers. We talk about autism with the goal of sharing knowledge and bringing awareness to light. Our goal is to make videos that are easy to understand, so many will be able to understand and develop a deeper awareness of autism. With that said, we'll get into it. Autism spectrum disorder is a mental disorder that entails a spectrum of individuals who may experience the same symptoms in varying degrees. In particular, communication and socialization are hampered and delayed by this disorder. Essentially, autism is a developmental disability that appears during the first 3 years of life. However, many experts believe that autistic children's verbal communication difficulties result from conditions and factors that occur during or shortly after birth, even though the root cause remains unexplained. By affecting the development of the person's brain, it results in difficulties which interfere with the person's capacity to comprehend things or socialize. It's believed that the language troubles relate to problems with the theory of mind, a messed up capacity to think, and messed up skills to symbolize during conversations and play. According to reports, autism is on the rise in the U.S. According to the most recent data, 1 out of every 91 kids suffers from the autism spectrum disorder. Since the 1980s, when fewer than 2 kids out of 10,000 were diagnosed with autism, the rate has drastically increased. When a child is born, his or her brain begins to develop towards maturity during the first 3 years following birth. The basic communication signs do not appear until days after birth. At that stage, the child makes controlled sounds because the dialect mechanisms, which include the mouth, throat, jaw, tongue, and throat, and voice, have begun to develop, but not completely. Normally, autism is diagnosed when a child reaches the age of 2. By the time a child reaches the age of 1, he or she will have comprehended a few words. In addition, it's expected that the majority of kids will be able to speak by the time they reach 18 months. Even though children can pronounce an average of 9 words, it's hard to detect this problem before 18 months. Any concerned parent or guardian would like to know everything they can about their children, including language and autism. Therefore, they would like to know how to determine if their children have such a problem. In order to assess language development problems in autistic children, there are numerous measures that can be used. Several specific language patterns and manners are commonly observed by autistic children. Number 1, the use of rigid and repetitive language. It is common for children with autism to muffle meaningless words when trying to speak. They may also speak words which, once understood, are utterly out of context. If, for example, a kid repeats himself when asked to count 1 to 10, it could indicate that he or she has autism. It is not only possible for autistic children to repeat their own words, but also those heard from other sources. For instance, if someone tells them something, they may just repeat the same words. If it's a question, autistic children may be unable to answer, but will instead repeat it. This condition has many symptoms when it comes to repetition. Besides repeating words that they hear directly from their family and friends, the children also repeat words they heard earlier, including those they heard from television and the media as well. Children with autism have also been shown to be good at pronouncing words. While most of these children have difficulty using language words constructively, they often have difficulty deciphering a sentence's meaning and wording. Now, before we continue, we'd like to ask a few moments of your time. If you want to support Autism Answers and its mission to spread awareness about autism, please leave a like and click on the subscribe button. This would help us create more engaging content for you. Now moving back to where we left off. Number 2, a limited range of abilities and interests. When discussing topics of interest, autistic children can deliver profound monologues, but they may have trouble sustaining a two-way conversation, even when the topic is of interest to them. However, some children display outstanding abilities in areas such as music, counting, math, and so on, despite their limited abilities. Around 10% of autistic children demonstrate exceptional abilities in certain areas, according to some. Number 3, inappropriate development of language and communication skills. Although it's said that autistic children have language problems, it does not mean that they do not develop any dialogue skills. In truth, they do, but they don't reach the average level children with autistic tends to develop more irregularly than those without. It's not surprising, therefore, that they can develop a very strong vocabulary in a matter of days, especially in areas in which they are interested. Furthermore, the problem does not mean that they do not remember events, words, and objects that they felt, heard, or saw. The fact is that they do. They may be able to read by 5 or 6 years, but they may not understand anything. They may appear inattentive on most occasions, causing them to fail, react, or respond to calls or questions. The symptoms of autism can confuse parents and anyone else who encounters an autistic child, so they may assume their kids are deaf. Number 4, broken nonverbal communication skills. A person with autism does not only have verbal communication skills, but also nonverbal abilities. Because of this, children with this condition are not very good at using gestures. For example, he may not be able to point a finger at something. Using gestures to convey meaning to speech is an important part of communication. Eye contact is something they struggle with as well. They can attract wrong judgment from people because they're unable to coordinate their verbal and nonverbal communication activities. As a result, a listener or observer can even think that they are stupid, rude, negligent, or uninterested because of the lack of coordination between nonverbal signals and verbal communication. Because there's no specific cure for autism, autistic children may experience long-term or lifelong problems. However, some treatments have been developed, which have proven to be helpful in healing autistic kids and improving their communication skills. In the absence of effective communication, autistic children may express their frustrations through vocal outbursts or other anger-driven behavior. Moreover, autistic children may have difficulty fitting into society, which can cause them a great deal of stress, especially if they're faced with upsetting experiences as a result of their condition. Meanwhile, their parents are constantly stressed out as well. As a result of their inability to communicate properly, it can also be difficult to understand and attend to their needs when dealing with such children. Below are some interventions that are very reliable for helping autistic kids with language problems avoid these problems, providing them with a good developmental environment. This is an effective remedy in which people are required to create an environment which is strategically designed to stimulate and enhance neural plasticity. Since the brain is very elastotopic, a child's brain development can be controlled if the right environment is available. Brain cells can change their organization and function as a result of environmental experiences and other stimulations. As of today, there are a number of treatment programs available for people who have children with autism, and they can also assist those who are unsatisfied with their child's language development. The arrangement of the activities and their value are professionally determined so that they guarantee good results. Parents are offered programs made up of various developmental activities by consulting professionals. In addition to being very simple to follow, these programs are designed to be carried out at home. A person diagnosed with a developmental disability is referred to a specialist depending on the type of disability. Speech-language pathologists treat patients with poor language development. It is their responsibility to handle voice, speech, and communication complications as qualified professionals who've been trained and certified. With their knowledge and instruments, they can assess a person's communication skills and determine the extent of the disorder as well. Using their expertise, they decide how to treat the problem based on their findings. They may recommend other checkups, including tests to determine whether the hearing abilities are normal. Besides advising and designing the programs described above, they can also assist in stimulating the child's brain and stimulating development. It's well known that language development begins very early in one's life cycle, so pay attention to children's language development process. Initially, communication skills kick in, followed by pre-language skills until they're able to use words perfectly. A parent or other primary caregiver can detect these problems before it's too late if they pay attention to this process. A lot of signs and symptoms of language problems can be observed when they're keenly assessed, including gestures, words, body movements, and babbling, cooing. In this case, we can take appropriate action, whether to consult a speech-language pathologist or do something else to help the child, as opposed to later in life when delays and disorders are discovered at these early stages. They can be fixed more effectively. And that's what we have for you today. What are your thoughts? Let us know in the comment section down below. If you want more content related to this topic, make sure to check our channel. Take care, and we'll see you in the next video.